The Global Market Roundup by Kalkine Media is brought to you by Ora Banda Mining Limited. Ora Banda Mining is a uniquely positioned gold exploration and development company located in West Perth, Western Australia. Hello, I'm James Preston and thanks for tuning in to Kalkine TV. This is the Global Markets Roundup show, proudly brought to you by Ora Banda Mining. Global equity markets rose on Monday at the start of a big week for central bank meetings, helped by bets of fiscal stimulus in Japan and undeterred by concerns of future interest rate hikes that have tempered bonds. MSCI's World Equities Index gained by 0.25%. Benchmark US indices closed the first day of the month on Monday, November 1, with a buoyant note as stocks saw gains across all industry groups on the back of upbeat quarterly earnings and economic outlook. The S&P 500 was up by 0.18%, while the Dow Jones rose by 0.26%, the Nasdaq Composite rose 0.63%, and the small cap Russell 2000 was up by 2.65%. Traders began the month's first day of trading on an upbeat note after solid quarterly results in the previous weeks. They will now eagerly wait for cues from the Fed's two-day policy monthly meet, which starts today. The central bank is likely to announce a timeline for withdrawing its $120 billion worth of monthly asset buying programs, expected by mid-November. Energy and basic materials stocks were the top movers on the S&P 500 on Monday. Communication and technology stocks were the bottom movers. 5 of the 11 stock sectors of the index stayed in the positive territory. The index saw its best monthly performance in October in over a year. And just before we continue with our global market roundup, it's time for a very short break on Kalkine TV. Hi there, James Preston for Kalkine TV. Are you into gaming and virtual reality? Does AI and the endless possibilities it entails capture your interest? Or are you constantly trawling through the web to try and discover the latest updates and innovations in the tech space? Well, let us do the work for you. From the latest product launches to shocking affairs on the World Wide Web, exclusive interviews and information about the top companies like Apple and Google to brand new tech startups vying for your attention. Kalkine's Tech Beat has the latest in what matters in the world of technology. Join me every single Thursday on the Tech Beat, exclusive to Kalkine TV. Welcome back, it's great to have your company. I'm James Preston and you're watching the Global Markets Roundup show brought to you by Ora Banda Mining, exclusive to Kalkine TV. European stocks finished at record highs on Monday, carrying over momentum from October's gains on the back of strong earnings and as expectations of interest rate hikes supported bank stocks. The Pan-European Stock 600 closed up by 0.7%, boosted by a 1.4% jump in bank stocks, as Eurozone bond yields surged on expectations of rate hikes by the European Central Bank next year. London equities were on a roll yesterday, with the domestic benchmark FTSE 100 reclaiming the level of 7,300 for the first time in over 20 months. The continued support from the heavyweight shares have supported the headline index as the markets return to Greenwich Meridian time from British summertime. The FTSE 100 advanced as much as 0.88% from the previous closing of 7,237.57 on Monday, the 1st of November. This has been the highest level since the 24th of February 2020, the day when the market index recorded a slump of more than 3% following the industry-wide panic with regard to the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, the mid-cap heavy index FTSE 250 added 0.61%. Notably, the FTSE 100 components cumulatively topped an unusual equity volume of more than $1 billion. Shares of AstraZeneca, HSBC Holdings, Unilever, Diageo, GlaxoSmithKline and BP contributed majorly to the index yesterday. On the other hand, shares of Darktrace emerged as the biggest losers among the 101 constituents of the benchmark index, followed by the stocks of Barrett Developments, Taylor Wimpey, Berkeley Group Holdings and Barclays. Japanese stock prices hit a one-month high on Monday, buoyed by expectations of a stable government and more fiscal stimulus after Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's ruling party held on to a majority in a parliamentary election. The Nikkei share average rose by 2.61% to its highest level since late September. The broader topics added 2.18%. China's stocks also closed lower on Monday as recent COVID-19 outbreaks in the country weighed on consumption, tourism and the broader services sector. The blue chip CSI 300 index fell 0.4%, while the Shanghai Composite Index lost 0.1%. South Korean shares ended higher on Monday as risk appetite got a lift from the nation's upbeat trade data, while investors waited for policy meetings in the United States, Britain and Australia. The won weakened while the benchmark bond yield also fell. The benchmark Kospi closed up by 0.28%. On home soil, the ASX 200 closed 0.6% higher on Monday. The Australian Central Bank will now meet on Tuesday, aka today, to discuss the cash rate. The market expects the RBA to hold rates at the current record low level of 0.1%. It's also expected that the RBA may signal the end of quantitative easing, do away with the bond yield target framework and bring forward the rate hike guidance. In terms of bond yields, the 10-year US Treasury note rose 2.8 basis points, while German 10-year yields slid 0.8 basis points. The dollar fell after recording its biggest daily rise in over 4 months ahead of the Federal Reserve's policy meeting this week. On the other hand, the dollar index fell 0.24%. The euro was up 0.28%, while the yen traded up 0.08%. The Aussie and Kiwi dollars started the month trading sideways and near recent highs against the greenback on Monday, as traders braced for Australia's central bank meeting this week that could mark a retreat from its dovish rate policy. The Australian dollar was little changed at 75.45 cents and within an almost 2-week range after gaining 4% in October, the most in 10 months, helped by high commodity prices amid energy shortages in Europe and also Asia. Looking now at liquid gold, and oil prices edged higher on account of an improving demand outlook. Brent crude rose 1.1%, while US crude rose 0.59%. Gold itself was also trading in a narrow range ahead of the Fed's meeting. Spot gold rose 0.6%, while US gold futures for December delivery settled up by 0.7%. Benchmark copper on the London Metal Exchange was also up by 0.4%. And in the world of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin fell 0.7% to trade at $61,949 whilst another big winner in the world of altcoins was Jasmy, which jumped more than 50% overnight. Alright, well that's all for now. Stay tuned to Kalkine TV for the latest market updates, business news and exclusive interviews. I'm James Preston, signing off for now.